Stephen Kavalkovich joins us today, and I hope I said the last name right. We said it before in the green room, and I said I'm still going to mess it up, and I probably did, but we'll see. But man, this is a really, really special episode, and it's special to me for a couple of reasons. One, it's the very last day of 2021, so what better way to break in a brand new year by revisiting someone who is a longtime friend of the show. Stephen joined me back on September 7th of 2017. So here we are just over 4 years later. We're going to catch up. We're going to find out exactly what Stephen's got going in his life right now. And I think it's going to be beneficial for everybody listening. It's going to be a little different than some of the topics that we generally cover. But, you know, You're the Boss is all about being your boss. And you can't quite find your direction if we don't have all of our how do we put that, Stephen? If we don't have all of our mental and spiritual and emotional and physical capacities all lined up, did I hit that right?
I would have to say for sure. It's definitely one of those things that it's really a, the word integrity. Here's a way to describe it. We hear the word integrity all the time. We think it's about doing the right thing, and that's true. But integrity goes a lot deeper. There's, generally speaking, for most people, unless you have like an amputee issue, but still for all people, really, there's two sides of the body. There's a male side, there's a female side. Everything works congruently. And if we can't get integrity, like that's really what integrity means, is getting all systems working together, if that makes sense.
It definitely makes sense, and it's kind of cool to hear that, and we're definitely going to dig into that a lot deeper throughout the episode. Sure. But I want to back up for a second, just say welcome back, man. And
good to talk to you, man. Great to talk to you.
Thanks. You reached out, you said, "Hey, man, what do you think if I come back on the show?" I was like, I'd love it. I'd love the opportunity to chat with you again and catch up. What have you been doing for the last 4 years? I mean, we're friends on Facebook and we see some posts here and there, but I'm not necessarily as attached as maybe I should be. So bring us up to speed, man. What's going on in Stephen?
Oh, man. Well, I'm sitting here reminiscing. I'm sitting here in my basement in my other home that when we talked 4 years ago, me and my then girlfriend, now wife, that's part of what's happened. We lived, thank you. We lived in another home at that time. And I remember when we did this show 4 years ago, I was walking around my backyard. It was actually, I think, probably it might have been one of the first podcasts I think I'd ever been on. And it was right around the time I was launching my podcast at the time, which I since have stopped doing. Not because it was it was a bad thing or it wasn't popular or whatever. Just my journey took me different places. But for from the time we spoke, I did do one of the first first responder mental health podcasts that I was aware of at the time. And it wound up with about 60 or so episodes. Had a lot of different guests on, talking all aspects of mental health. One of my favorites was with Robin Williams' son, Zach, was on the show a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
We were talking about, what it's like to lose somebody, grieving and trying to recover from that, and let alone having a famous father at that. So, it was really poignant. And I actually we were just texting me and him the other day about something else that I'm working on, trying to get him maybe his input and seeing if he wants to get involved. But that was part of it. So I did a lot of that. I traveled around speaking for a bit. That got me traveling around in like the first responder mental health, circuit, if you will. So that was a lot of what I was doing. And then here at home, I was working a couple different jobs. I got working in the recovery field, in the drug treatment, treatment, inpatient, outpatient, recovery coaching, so to speak, kind of work. And I saw a lot. Unfortunately, I saw a lot of bad stuff. It was actually more negative than positive for me. It was actually some of the toughest times in my life, to be honest with you, because I saw how the profit-driven corporate way that a lot of it goes is designed for just that, profit and, money for the shareholders and the high level executives, et cetera. But the care was so poor. I saw blatant insurance fraud. It was awful. It was really bad. Around I guess the spring of 2018, I guess it was 2018, I guess. I can't even remember at this point. I left working in that field because I just was so disgusted. And as you know, I was somebody who had been, a patient in many of those facilities over the years.
Sure.
And, So I had a perspective of being, if I had been in that chair coming into that facility now, there's a good chance I'd be dead because of what was being done. So I walked, and I wound up working. I can't name the name of it, but I work for a university here in New Jersey, where I work in peer support. I actually helped found a peer support line for people that struggle with substance abuse and addiction issues in New Jersey. That was funded through, an insurance, a couple different ventures funded that. And it started it was 4 months before everything locked down.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was, we started it from the ground up, and, we offered a lot of support during that time. And then unfortunately, the way grant money goes, we lost our grant at the end of October, pretty much during the height of the pandemic. And it was hard, but I wound up shuffling into another position in peer support, where I currently work with guys who are in state prisons who are transitioning back out into the community, and working with them on a regular basis for a year, 18 months, 6 months prior to release, and then a year post-release. So I've been doing that for a little bit over a year. It's one of the things I do in the daytime, and believe me, I love it. But really, what I really want to talk to you about, Larry, is what I get to do now with all my other time, which is pretty much all of my time, I will say. It's, I had to backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
So when I was 14 years old, I experienced some pretty major trauma at the hands of, we'll say clergy abuse. And I came forward about it right when that happened, like a week after it happened. And the organization that gentleman represented, and I can't believe I called him a gentleman, but healing happens.
There you
go. Right. That organization came and met me and my parents, listened to my story, and they told me, "We don't believe you. We think you misinterpreted." And he was allowed to continue doing that for 10 more years. But what that does for a 14-year-old who's already struggling with identity and adolescence and puberty and fitting in and all that, I don't think we have to say too much about what that does. But it led me into Borders bookstore at 14, 15 years old. And I don't know what led me there, but I wound up in that section in the back where all the weirdos go, the new age, the spiritual, metaphysics, stuff like that. And I was led there, and I was immersed in it. And I got involved with energy medicine at that time, Reiki 1 and 2, Reiki energy healing. I got certified in that at like 15 years old. And through my path, I've always been like studying those things, doing martial arts, internal martial arts, all that stuff over the years, even during my darkest times.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened. And March 2020, we all wind up locked up in our homes. And that first month or two was really, really difficult. But I have to tell you, for a lot of people, and I'm not minimizing the difficulties people have gone through this, because it's been really awful, as we know. I have to say that it's been some of the most positive growth experiences of my life in the last 2 years. I can't speak enough about what it's done for me, because I had the time to sit down and look. We had nothing but time to sit with ourselves, and I almost feel like, I want to get kooky, but if you want to say God or the universe maybe brought all this on so everybody could be forced to sit with themselves.
Well, and I think you're not as rare in that regard as you may think. I've talked to a lot of people that during this time, although, as you pointed out, very traumatic, very difficult, it's also been an opportunity for personal growth. And there's opportunities that came from this when positioned properly, allowed us to do things in our lives that may not have happened otherwise. If we had continued on that daily grind, continued doing the same thing that we were doing every day, day in and day out, just getting up, going through the motions and coming back and going through the evening motions and just doing it again, we'd still be in that rut. But somehow this is almost, and I've heard them talk about the Great Reset.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost that opportunity to reset ourselves, both mentally and emotionally and spiritually, across the board. So what did you see, and how did that affect you personally?
Well, I really had a lot of time. I watched a ton of YouTube videos, and I still do, and it just led me down these different trails and different books I'd order on Amazon, and it was like my soul was starting to wake up. And I was having these experiences where I was waking up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, And I couldn't figure out what it meant, but I knew it was a spiritual thing. I knew it in the deepest part of myself. I knew it. And, for a little bit, I kind of thought I was going crazy because I was having just a lot of these weird physical experiences and just visions, and all these weird things were happening. And I was listening to a Ram Dass lecture from the early 1980s on YouTube. And he mentioned an organization called the Spiritual Emergence Network. And it sounded interesting, so I looked it up. Turns out it's basically a resource that people can go to if they feel they're going through a spiritual type situation and they don't know what to do with it. Almost like Ghostbusters in a way. You don't know what to do. Who are you going to call?
Yeah.
So I said, I look it up and I find that there's like a directory of local providers, and I find a guy locally, and he's a licensed therapist and all this, but on his resume it says profound Kundalini awakening in 1992, and I was like, that's a really strange thing for a licensed therapist to put on their resume because it sounds a little wacky. Kundalini is, that's the belief of, from Hinduism about the energies, and like how there's a snake, basically a serpent coiled at the base of our spine, essentially. And they believe that how the energy rises from the spine all the way to the crown and out. It's the rising of the energy by clearing energetic blockages, et cetera, by yoga, breathing. Psychedelics can be part of that at times, meditation, a lot of different techniques. So I saw that and I said, I got to call this guy. So I called him and we talked for an hour, and he said, come on in. And I told him the experiences I was having. He goes, yeah, you're going through the same thing. I said, okay, it makes sense. So I started immersing myself in learning about it. And I reawakened just my desire to do Reiki. Like all these things started popping up again. And then like a month later, a girl that I went to middle school with in Franklin, Tennessee, when I was 12 years old, we went on the same school bus. We're in the same neighborhood, but we weren't friends. We just knew each other. She finds me on Facebook, sends me a message saying, I had to find you. I had a dream about you last night. I said, okay. So we connected for a little bit. She lives in Brooklyn. I live in South Jersey. She found out that I'd done Reiki and all this. She said she had a practitioner when she lived in Georgia, but she moved. And I said, well, you could do this work distantly. It doesn't matter. Energy is energy. It doesn't matter where you are. So she said, all right, let's do a session. We've been working together practically every week ever since. And she was my first client. And since that time, it's turned into a business. I apprenticed for almost a year under a local shaman. And that's what I do. I'm busier than I know what to do with right now. Adults, children, people from all walks of life are coming seeking. It's crazy. They're seeking something and they don't know what it is. They're tired of going to the Western answer, which is just bigger, brighter, fancier, shinier, more expensive. It's not offering the answers. It's leaving them empty. So people are coming. A lot of times they don't know why they're coming. They don't know how they found me, but they show up, and it's wild.
Do you think a lot of it may have to do with the fact that we're bombarded every day with agenda-based messages, and there's really no neutrality out there for us anymore? And we as beings, as just whatever we are, humans, I mean, I know that's what we are, but whatever type of energy being or light being or whatever we want to label it as,
Sure.
You're looking for truth. We're looking for direction. We're looking to be centered. And as you pointed out, with the whole happy, shiny, more expensive things, quote unquote, it's not fulfilling anymore. And I think people are starting to see through the BS and realize everything is a marketing scam.
Yeah.
Everything is just there to get more money, is there to get you to invest or buy this or buy that. And I don't know that we as beings were created to do that. You know, we're all looking for a sense of belonging. We're all looking for a sense of direction. And, you know, we've got this shift. And here, I'm guilty. I literally, before we got on this podcast, just walked out my front door, picked up my brand new Oculus 2. And,
I got mine last week.
So as soon as we hang up here, I'm setting up and I'm jumping into the metaverse. I mean, that's where I'm headed as soon as we finish this podcast. But I don't think that's going to give me anything more or less really than what I get in the real world. So we may be leaning towards that spiritual nurturing that we need. Is that what you're seeing, or what are your
There's
thoughts
no
there?
question. There's no question. And the thing I really want people to understand about this spiritual journey, we'll call it, and everybody's on a spiritual journey because when we all got here, we were energetic, soul, spiritual, spirit beings. When we leave our bodies, that's what we're taking with us. So we all have that in common. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
And one of the things that people ask me is because they're like, oh, can you teach me how to do the stuff you do? I said, well, yes, I can, but you have to, because they're like, oh, I want to help people. I want to help people, which I totally respect. But I've learned the responsibility is great. The discipline is great. And the sacrifice is great because I have to be constantly, my wife doesn't even, we argue about it sometimes because I have to be constantly self-aware, like hyper self-aware and removing things from my life and adding things that are more for me, that are more for my makeup every day. Because if I don't, I can't be effective to help you. And that being said, one of the things that I found in those first few months of COVID during the real, I'll call it the dark night, we'll say that, during that period, man, I had to find out why I had such abandonment issues because I struggled with it my whole life. And I started to notice I was able, because I got quiet, I was able to get quiet and turn the noise off. I was able to listen to myself. I was able to hear the voices from the inside telling me, this is, your core issues. And I thought abandonment happened when, a girlfriend left me or I got divorced or whatever. Dude, I had to go way back. I was born on 2/22/1981 at 4:44 p.m. Now, my twin brother was born at 4:43. My other twin was born at 4:45. So we were triplets. We lost one at birth. That's where my abandonment issues started. And I had to go back and look at that and explore that. But the only way I was able to ever even get to that idea was I had to get quiet. And then if I can inventory, like, it's like, if I own a store, I don't know how many, pallets of toothpaste I need to order if I don't know how many I have. So how am I supposed, it's like we don't know what's going on with us because we got so much noise and so much distraction going on. It's profound. And then I'll tell you, as you do that, as I've done this work myself over the last, while now, it just amazes me the ability, once it's like, I feel like we're almost like we're all radio antennas. We all operating at a different frequency. And our job is to keep our antennas as light and clean as possible. So ironically, one of the strange things a lot of people are surprised with when they meet with me, when they come in with me, they're struggling with addiction or suicidal thoughts or think they're seeing spirits or whatever it is. One of the first things I ask them is, I want you to tell me what you're putting in your body. What are you eating? What are you drinking?
Because you can drink a Monster and go, oh, this dude is all messed up.
Well,
I just saw the Monster Kid. You're like, man, I got to talk to this cat quick.
Well, it's that's fun. I get it's funny actually. Now that I think about it, but it's like your gut. We hear the gut brain connection all the time, but we don't really think about what that actually means.
That's so wild that you just said that because I was listening to Joe Rogan. Maybe it was yesterday or day before yesterday. And I can't remember who the guest was, but they were talking about your gut brain and your heart brain because you've got like neurons in your gut and in your heart. So those sayings of listen to your heart or listen to your gut, they came about because of that fact. There's knowledge there. And you're like, what? I never knew that. Here I am almost 50 years old. I had no idea that we had those sayings actually held somewhat true.
I'm going to blow your mind. Most of the serotonin in our body comes from our gut.
Wow.
Whoa. So think about that. So we got people running around on all kinds of SSRI meds when they might not need to do it. They need to detox their bodies and start eating cleaner. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. It's New Year's Eve. I'm going to eat like shit tonight, dude. I'm going to lie. I'm a human being too.
I've been eating rough the past couple of weeks, man, for sure, but somewhat rough. Not as rough as I have been, but over the last few years. But, this year was a year of cleansing. That's part of what came out of COVID for me was dropping 80 some odd pounds and eating totally different and changing everything. But it's interesting that you say that, because, coming out of rehab 8 years ago, is it eight? Yeah, 8 years ago myself, I was put on all those SSRIs and all this other kind of crap. And I was on that. But during that time, I was eating like an idiot. And, I blew up to over 326 pounds. And I dropped all that shit this year. January 4th, I said, I'm done.
Yep.
And I just cold turkeyed a lot of those meds. The only thing I take now is a little Atenolol for my little heart rate, because, I'm a little bit.
Beta blocker, never heard
Yeah, a
anything.
little beta blocker. That's all it is. But everything else is gone. And at one point, Stephen, I was taking 30 plus pills a day just to quote unquote survive. Was I really surviving? No, I think I was just existing. But it's interesting that you say that, because I'm happier, I'm fuller, I'm healthier, I'm more, I can move, I can just live. And while I was on that medication, although maybe it kept me sober, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that contributed a whole lot to the sobriety factor either. I'm not on them, and I still hang out with people that are drinking and partying. Well, back off the partying legally, and I have no desire to be back in that mix. So, but again, getting off all of those meds allowed me to start feeling better. And as I changed my diet over the year and started putting in good quality calories, not only did my weight decrease, but my energy increased, and my focus in every aspect has improved dramatically. So it's interesting that you're driving that home.
Simplicity, man, simplicity. And then, with, the term shaman, I get a lot of different calls for different things. Yeah, I do a lot with drumming. Drumming is the big thing, because if you use rhythmic drumming, you're able to get yourself into a theta or even an alpha, different brain states. I'm screwing up the one, theta specifically, and to higher levels of consciousness, which you're able to access your subconscious mind. So if you've been going through these same cycles of this cheating boyfriend, abusive boyfriend, or, whatever it is, we have to get to the root of it. And it's hard to get to the root of it when we're trying to think with our rational minds. So the way to get beyond the rational mind, I use drumming, and it's called shamanic journeying. So I'll get somebody, get the drumming going, get them into that state, alter their state a little bit so we can access the information underlying, and then we can resolve it. Then we can work on resolving it. There's ceremony, there's a lot of different things. I get a lot of calls from people saying, oh man, do you give out DMT and mushrooms and ayahuasca? And listen, I have a lot of respect for every single one of those things. I'm not going to confirm nor deny my experiences with those things. However, I will say that they have their place. Absolutely. The thing I want people to understand is, I think everybody wants the mountaintop experience, the little vision, and sometimes if that's able to help break down those walls, then great. However, you can't have the mountaintop experience last. Even somebody who climbs Everest can't stay up there very long. So you have to climb the mountain. And to give you an example, this is kind of an example of a couple things. The idea that we can truly manifest the life we want. So about 6 weeks ago, I was in an early morning meditation. I get up at like 3:30 in the morning, like regular now. And it's some of the most productive and peaceful time of my day. I get up at 3:30 in the morning, I'm meditating, and suddenly from the left side of my my awareness, this exact sentence came out. Ask for an NFL player. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? I don't even like football. But okay, give me an NFL player. 2 weeks later, an NFL player calls me. And I met with him, and we met a few times. And he's going through some serious stuff. He's a young guy, just retired from the NFL, so there's definitely identity stuff going on there, and all that. But he wanted that magical white light experience. And when I was like, I can't really offer you that. Like, this is a journey, and I'll walk with you, but there's a legality issue, and there's it's just not my realm right now, because of obviously lots of different reasons. But we stay in touch, but he kind of backed off, and I understand. I get it, and I'm not saying there's anything bad about that guy. I totally have nothing but love and respect for him. But I guess the point I'm making is you got to do the work. You got to face the darkness. You can't, and that's my concern, I'll be honest with you. Because, you mentioned Joe Rogan. Like, I love Joe Rogan. I listen to him all the time. And he's one of the reasons I got interested in learning about things like that DMT and ayahuasca and whatnot. My concern is it's going to become another thing that they're going to spread out like wildfire all over. and indiscriminately just use it. And it's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous to do that.
Anything that's not regulated in some way, shape, fashion, or form is going to be taken to the extreme. I mean, that's just what we do as humans. At least and I can speak for myself. I do everything to the extreme.
Sure.
Well, I get nervous about trying new things. I just mentioned the Oculus. I'm afraid I'm going to jump in that damn thing and I'm going to be there for days on end. My wife's going to be like, dude, would you take that off? Yeah. No, I love it. But that's everything I do. I always take it to the next level.
It's about balance, balancing these things. And, one of the other things I wanted to, I don't mean, I'm jumping around a bit, but I wanted to show this. I did a lecture a couple of weeks ago at the local county college. Ladies doing like this 6-week, like develop your psychic and intuitive skills workshops. And she invited me to talk about shamanism. So I brought all my stuff and I picked somebody out of the class and did a healing right in front of everybody. Well, before I did that, I spent 20 minutes telling them who I am. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a taxpayer. I go to Aldi to buy my groceries. I'm also on the planning board of my township, which that's a new thing that just came in July. I got appointed on the planning board because I love this town. I grew up in this town. I died in this town a few years ago. I was saved by first responders in this town, and my heart is here. So I wanted to do something on the local, government level to help create change. So I say all that because I want people to know that I'm a regular human guy. I'm just a regular dude. I'm not some magical guy in an ashram in India. You could be here. You could be right here taking your kids to soccer practice, and it's not this complicated, like, it's not this us and them or me, he's better than me or he knows more than me. That's bullshit. Like, whatever you focus on, you can develop. And even the things that I do, like when it comes to like, intuitive skills and reading people and whatever, and all that, people, anybody can do it. It's what you put your focus on.
It's tough to understand that, though. And there's so many fakes that are out there, and I mean, I full disclosure, when you start talking about the drumming and the ceremony, I tend to start feeling a little cheesy. And I've said this on several shows when I have people that come on talking about meditation and going through certain ceremonies. As a lifelong martial artist, even I, to this day, I really can't get into the whole ceremony side of things. Mm-hmm. I just want to go in the gym and I want to train. I don't want to go into the gym and walk up to the mat and bow and then bow to your sensei. Stop, man. Just stop. My name's Larry. Don't call me Mr. Roberts. Just say, hey, Larry, what's up, man? Hey, show me that technique, whatever.
Yeah.
So as I've gotten older, I've gotten less and less open to ceremony and ritual. Do you think that's stopping some people from finding their path? Because we see it all the time, and we're so quick to call bullshit on stuff that we see on TV, which is a lot of it revolves around ceremony. So we don't know what to believe. But
I think you got a good point. I'm very fortunate that they're actually going to do my story in the Philadelphia Inquirer at the beginning of January. It's
very cool.
In process now, and the reporter asked me, well, what do you say to people who say, yeah, the ceremony and like the, wearing, drumming and all this other stuff, and the energy medicine and all this, what if it, it's all in your head, it's all bullshit. I said, okay, some people can think that, and that's okay. My answer to that is, well, has it helped me? Has it helped my family? Has it helped other people and their families? Yes, yes, and yes. Then who cares if it's bullshit?
And that is extremely hard to counter, because as long as it's providing the help, again, who cares? What's the difference? What difference does it make to you if this works for me?
Yeah. And the ceremony part is for us. Like, that's like the show. Because as humans, like, we like the show.
Yeah.
Like, now, okay, maybe not you and some other people, but I'm just messing. But no, like for most people, we like that performance. That's why people like concerts. They like live theater.
Sure.
They like going to church. They like the assembly of people that are interested in something they are, and there's a power in that. But every person that comes in to see me, I'm not dressed up like that idiot that was running around the Capitol last year. Like, you know, I don't do.
Bison helmet on or anything like that?
Yeah. Now, granted, I have a lot of things right behind me that are a little funky, but there, it's like, I come to you where you are. Like if you come to me and you're crossed armed like this, and you're just coming here because your wife dragged you here, me coming out with all this, my Halloween costume on is really going to make you not comfortable around me. So I have to kind of, my job is to sit in when you're telling me your story or whatever, what's going on, what you think brought you here. I'm looking underneath the surface. I'm looking at under things and trying to figure out how am I going to navigate? How are we going to navigate this? What do you need?
Yeah.
Because everybody's constitution is different. So we have to like really look at, it's really like finding out what you need and trying to bring that to you. Like some people need the big regalia and all like that. Some people, that's what they need. And there's a place for that. But I'm all about really like learning ways. And that's what I spend my time doing. I know this isn't a video podcast, but if you were to look where I'm pointing here on my shelf here, I've got 40 different books I've gotten in the last couple of weeks that I'm like in the middle of pretty much all of them in different levels.
Yeah.
Because like I'm constantly searching for ways to help people, heal themselves. It's like my job. I really look at it. My calling will say is to just kind of help you remember who you are underneath everything else.
No, it's cool. And it's sometimes just super, super hard to let go of that. Looking at it from a religious perspective, I was raised in church, although the home life would not reflect that. But in the church, they used to call it the hardening of the heart. When you steer away from religion and you steer away from God and you steer away from the Bible and you steer away from the pomp and circumstance of religion. But I've seen that in a variety of different aspects of my life, not necessarily just in that regard. And that came up to me because just a few weeks back, I attended church for the first time, and I honestly don't know how long. That wasn't for a funeral or a wedding, right? I mean, I actually went to a church service, and this was a very unique church in that it's a cowboy church. And being from Texas, cowboys are pretty prevalent.
Sure.
And this was out in East Texas, so it's all ranchers and farms, and it's a very country atmosphere. But this was a massive cowboy church. I don't know how many people were there, but I'd put it well over 1,000. So it was a pretty big auditorium, pretty big congregation. And they were going through their own version of the pomp and circumstance of Sunday morning service. It's a little more relaxed, a little more laid back. All the cowboys are there, and they're in their boots and their cowboy hats, and who knows? They probably just came straight from the farm. They were probably feeding the animals. They came straight to church after that, so some of them aren't exactly clean. They don't have on their Sunday go to meeting clothes that we used to talk about as a kid. And I thought that was really interesting because it provided a different engagement level. Because it really was, it still had the pomp and circumstance. They still did the singing of the hymn, and not the traditional hymns. They had good country hymns. And actually, before the church service even started, they had secular, rock music playing. I think I heard some Nickelback, and I was like, oh man, now we all need to repent. But, but the thing was, it kind of helped me chill out a little bit because I was nervous. I was going because I went and stayed with some friends out in East Texas, and they get up on Sunday morning and go to church. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go to church with you. It's cool. So I wasn't there necessarily 100% on my own accord. I wouldn't have chosen to go, but maybe because it was modernized, maybe because it was more laid back, maybe because it felt somewhat sincere, I was able to look beyond that and actually get something out of the message.
Well, I think one of the most dangerous statements that's ever been uttered is this is the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
That's just dangerous because that removes any opportunity for progress. And well, that's awful, frankly. And, so it's like, the things of, 1888 don't work today, and we have to if you want to reach people and the other issues, as far as, and I'm not, I was very steeped in the very born again Christian kind of thing for a long time.
Yeah.
And, for me, I found just more a bunch of rules, regulations, etc. But what the biggest thing I found within that, in that kind of slanting, I guess you will, where it's, God, we have to lean on God and we don't have any power. if you kind of hear the way the story is really told about, Adam and Eve and, the Garden of Eden and, Eve made me eat the apple.
Yeah.
The woman has been to blame since the beginning of the story. The woman, the bitch. And it's been a male dominated thing ever since. And we wonder why we sit where we sit, because we're not allowing the feminine side of us to act. Let's go back to integrity. Okay. The right side of your body is your male side. The left side of your body is your female side. If you're female, I have clients that I check their energies all the time. But people, their feminine energy is not working whatsoever. So I think actually one of the greatest things we could have is having like a female president. And I'm not saying that a specific female, okay? I don't want to go there. But I'm just saying, like, we need that influence. Like, the one thing I love about the town I live in, the mayor and the deputy mayor of my town are both females. And me and my wife had breakfast with them the other day, because I've been envisioning since the beginning of COVID, having a gigantic drum circle in our community. So we sat down and I'm basically going to be in charge of creating an actual wellness day for our town in the spring, where we'll have different vendors. We're addressing all areas of wellness. We're going to have a bonfire and a giant drum circle at the end. And they're like, hey, this is your idea. We love it. We support it. Go do it. Like they're empowering me. This ex-heroin addict that was dead on dead in the back of their ambulance 6 years ago, okay, go do it. Like, they're empowering. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with men or masculine energy, but when you only have that, it's fear-based, it's me based, it's ego-based, it's very there is no opportunity, it's very micromanaging, it's very controlling, and that's prison. Like, that's just prison.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere you look, we hear, when we're looking for this sort of direction, everything is all about balance. And, I go back to the martial arts days and think of, the old yin and yang symbol. Even before we really understood what it meant, that was always, that meant karate or something, even though it doesn't necessarily, but it was always, commercialized to make us feel like it was part of karate. But it represents the balance. And there's balance in everything, or you have to have balance in everything. And there is balance that can be achieved. But it's being able to tap into both of those sides and being open-minded enough to tap into both of those sides, to allow it to come together and find that integrity, as you referred to it, or balance, and that complementary energy.
Yeah, here's a simple trick you can do that I tell all my clients to do. That sometimes I could just tell their polarity is off. So think of a battery, male and female, and positive, negative side.
Sure.
Well, if your energy is running in reverse, you're going to run into issues. One simple way everybody can go right now and do this twice a day. You could do it. You go down by your clavicles, right in the middle of your collarbone. Mm-hmm. Take your 2 fingers. You go down about 2-3 finger widths, and you'll feel like these little indents. You'll start feeling them a little bit. They're kind of hard to feel sometimes. You might feel them there. I see you're doing it. It's kind of hard to find.
Mine's really weird because I was born with a birth defect. So this has all been rebuilt. So my sternum and everything's all hoard up, so it's hard for me to maybe find it exactly.
So yeah, just go 2 to 3 finger widths and go in that area. You just take couple of your fingers and you just tap. You take a couple deep breaths, close your eyes and tap, and do it, I don't know, for 5-10 seconds. Do that twice a day. Your polarity will always be correct. Generally speaking. Or if you have one of those days where you just feel off and you don't know why, do that. It's so simple, but that's why we miss it, because it's so simple. We, as this industrial revolutionized capitalist society, we want bigger. We want, if it's expensive, it means it's better, right? I have a 13-year-old son, and he is me, man. That kid is me to a T. I mean, he wears Grateful Dead socks and all this. Like, he is me. And but he's always he's like, oh, I want that, that Bugatti, because it's worth. He always talks about the dollar value to something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, and I know you're a 13-year-old kid living in 2021. You don't get it, but it ain't it, man. It ain't it. I mean, I love what Jim Carrey says. If you follow someone, Jim Carrey, go YouTube what he's been up to these days. he always talks about, I wish everybody could make $1 million like I did, and find out that that's not what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all those things are nice, but I've had everything. I've lost everything. I've gained a lot in the last few years, but I can tell you right now, I have a beautiful home. I have a beautiful wife. I have a very nice life. I have a bank account with like a comma in it, which is amazing. That never happened before. But like, that's pretty wild.
That's pretty awesome, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I have all these wonderful, like, it looks like everything's together, right? But I'll tell you what, I will trade every single one of those things and live under a bridge for peace.
I hear you, man. Most definitely.
And I'm not just trying to be some kind of John Lennon. I love John Lennon, but I'm not trying to, be
right.
I'm really saying, like, it's as simple as it sounds. Fucking give peace a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. Most definitely.
But the way we give peace a chance is we give ourselves a break. We start forgiving ourselves for all the crap that we're really shameful about, but we don't realize it's shame. We're jealous, we're bitter, we're angry, we're resentful, we're lustful, we're all these other things. We don't realize that a lot of the core of that is shame and guilt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we start forgiving ourselves, give ourselves a break. Yeah, I fucked up. I made some really dumb mistakes yesterday, but there's a reason the sun rose today. I can, I get to rise and start again today. Every single day, as far, as long as things keep going the way they have been, as far as the sun coming up and all these things, and, we have a chance every day. We have a chance every minute to change the script. We just don't think we have the power we have.
Right. Right. And we do. I mean, I think we're both living proof that we have that power. I mean, you died. I was on the verge. I spent 4 days in the hospital before I even made it to the rehab facility because they kicked me out because they couldn't stabilize my vitals. So we were right there on the verge. And you talk about you had a voice come to you and say, ask for an NFL player. I had a voice come to me that day and say, dude, get help right now. As I sat there on that couch after a 2.5 week bender, it said, reach out, get help, or tomorrow's not going to show up. And I guarantee you, if I hadn't got up off the couch in that moment of clarity and made that phone call and reached out to my friend, you and I would be having this conversation right now. We wouldn't be ringing in 2022 together on another episode of the podcast. So
my birthday's 2/22/22, buddy.
That's cool. Yeah, that's going to be a cool day. That is cool as all get out.
Like, yeah, I'm telling you, like, yeah, I got to share this last thing with you because it's another one of these things that how you can, like, if you're tapped in, if you're paying attention, quiet enough to listen. Another thing, about a month ago, I'm in my meditation again, and this time I'm doing one of them. It was a guided meditation, find your spirit guide meditation. Sounds a little kooky. Well, while I'm doing it, I got this feeling like I had the presence of my brother who died at birth. Now, I've never felt his presence in all my 40 years. Never felt it that I know of. But that day I felt it. And I said, all right, if that's you, if that's real, you're going to have to show me a sign soon, like something big, something I'm going to know. I said, I want to see pennies from heaven, but you got to show, like, you've heard that term before, pennies from heaven. I said, I want to see a penny, but I got to know it's from you. Said it, let it go. Do you know 2 weeks later, I walked into the Royal Farms up here, which is like a little quickie mart kind of thing. I go in there at 6:30 a.m. to use the bathroom. I walk in this bathroom. I look down by the toilet, and there's a penny right by the bottom of the toilet. I was like, okay, no big deal. So I picked it up, 1981, the year I was born. I was like, come on. Come on.
That's quite the message, and I commend you for picking it up. I don't know if I commend you or if I'm scared for you for picking it up off the bathroom floor of a quickie mart, but the message was loud and clear for sure.
I picked it up, put it in my pocket. I cleaned it, put it in my pocket. 2 hours later, I went in my pocket to kind of look at it again.
Yeah.
No lie, it was gone. So about 4 days later, I'm in my basement meditating on my floor. The penny's sitting right there. No, I swear I'm making this up. I have the penny laying over here on my massage table in a bag right now.
Wow, that's wild, man.
I'm telling you,
wild. The universe speaks.
The universe always speaks. We just have to listen. We have to pay attention. All right, I got to share this last one because we talked about gut health. So I think it's important.
Bring it on, man.
I've been having this gut, I've been having these gut issues I've had them forever. I'll be very full disclosure. I had my gallbladder out 20 years ago, not because I needed it out. I convinced the doctor I could get it out to take it out so I can get Percocets and such. That's the true story. And I've suffered with digestive and gut issues kind of ever since. Well, I've been having like this heaviness for like a couple months. Day before Thanksgiving, I wake up at 5:45 in the morning. The very first thought in my head was go get a colonic. I'm like, well, I don't even know what that is. And then I looked it up. I was like, oh, I ain't doing that. That's gross.
Yeah, pass.
But I said, you know what? My intuition's telling me follow this. So I found a provider locally, spoke to her for an hour and a half, went and had it done. I felt like I gave birth to a 50-pound baby. It was awkward. It was weird. I won't lie, but they made me very comfortable. And I got to tell you, I've been on and it wasn't just getting that done, because that's the magical white light experience.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson because I cleared everything out. That very night, I went and started eating like shit again. 5 days later, everything I put in my body that was not healthy, clean, or that my body wanted, I got the physical effects of it immediately. Major headache, loss of energy, exhausted, fatigued, brain fog immediately. So they're really like, this is another example. And now I'm on a regimen of different probiotics and different plant-based protein. And it's a complete revolution to me.
Wow.
But I wouldn't have, none of that might have happened had I just said, oh, that's gross. I'm not doing that. Like I had, it's like the thought comes, there's a reason, if we explore a little bit, we'd be surprised. Just like yourself. A year ago, you made the decision. You had the thought. You could have said, no, burritos are better. I'm good. But you didn't. You know what I mean?
Burritos are delicious, though.
And they are delicious. And you live in Texas, so they're probably better there.
But no, you're spot on, man. You have to take the action as well. It's not just, if you hear a moment or you have a moment of clarity, you hear a voice, whatever you want to call it, and you don't act on it, it's pointless.
It is. It really is. There's the story of three frogs on a log. Two decide to jump off. How many are left on the log? Well, all three, because the other two just decided. They didn't jump. Making a decision and taking action are two different things.
100%. And hopefully, if people are listening to this episode, that will help them take that action that they need. And, I know every time that I've decided to take major action, it's had a positive impact in the long run. Granted, there's usually always pain involved with that action as well. But something that I've kind of grown accustomed to is understanding that with any real growth, there's going to come pain as well. So that can make that decision harder to make, but after the pain, it's always so much better.
Well, the problem is most of us quit because of the pain.
Yeah.
Or we don't see the results, right? So here's another example. I'm going to ask you a question. What would you rather have right now? $1 million or 1 penny today, and you double the value of the previous penny every day for a month? Most people will take the $1 million. But because of the law of compounding interest, if you take the penny, you'll have over $2 million at the end of 30 days. Today, 1 penny, tomorrow 2, the next day 4, the next day 8, the next day 16, next day 32, 64, 128. You see where I'm going.
Yeah.
You don't see the major growth to about day 22, when the compounding effect takes hold.
Yeah.
We quit at day 6 because we haven't lost 50 pounds yet. It's the same concept. It's the same principle. A principle is a principle.
Sure.
You could apply it to anything. The problem is, again, we're stuck in a society where we're supposed to have it right now.
Yeah.
Well, we think we're supposed to have it right now.
That's what we're told every day, day in and day out. You turn on the TV, you turn on anything, your instant gratification is where it's at.
Yeah.
And it's hard to counter that and understand that progress eventually makes, not quite perfect, but definitely makes better. And you have to keep that in mind as you go. And I don't know that it's, my wife and I were just having a discussion this morning, how we got into a little scrap night before last, because it's really a stupid reason, right? Okay. It's really stupid, but we put ourselves in a position to where we listen to each other. Now we've been married over 20 years together, going on 21 here come February. But we listen to each other, and neither one of us is really set on being right or winning. we're more interested in overcoming the objection and spending more quality time together because we know the objection is it's stupid. It was really stupid. But I don't know that you can have that realization without a lot of pain and a lot of growth along that journey. We didn't have that kind of understanding the first, I'll say 10 years of the marriage, if not more than that. But now that we're there, we understand the value in that progress. We understand the value in the pain that led up to us being in the position that we're in now to have these logical discussions, even in a moment of tension.
Yep.
But we wouldn't have done it without all the pain ahead of time. And
you had to get there. I mean, you had to get there. It's consistency. It's repetition. Repetition is the mother of learning. You know, we talk martial arts. I take Wing Chun Kung Fu 4 days a week. So I've been immersed in it for years. And Cobra Kai came out today. So me and my son.
I know I got to get out of my VR headset so I can watch Cobra Kai season 4.
Tell you what, when we finish this interview, me and my son are watching the first episode. I'm jonesing to watch it. But Mr. Miyagi, here you go. I'll show you since we're on video. There's my Mr. Miyagi, man.
Oh, dude, I love it. That's awesome. Mr. Miyagi action figure. That's the coolest.
He's been following me around. I've had him with me. Well, all right. I've had him and Mr. Rogers with me for years. And
here, let me.
Let's show our toys, dude.
We're showing toys. Here's my Daniel LaRusso Chia Pet, you know?
Well, I took my kids. We got to meet Sensei Kreese and Johnny Lawrence back in August at the Comic-Con down the road. And it was so much fun.
Oh, dude, that'd be cool. That would be so cool.
We got a picture. It was great. And dude, like, that's the stuff we need. Like, that it's, I'm not saying everybody needs to do martial arts, although I think they should. But you know what I mean? Like, that's the other thing, Larry. People, that's one of the things that I tell people when I'm talking to them all the time. I have a paramedic up in Newark, New Jersey, who we do phone coaching once a week. And, the other day I just asked him, I said, dude, I know you're making good money now with the pandemic. They're paying you all this extra money because of the short staffing and all this other stuff. So you're making a killing. I know you're working your ass off. I get it, but you're not happy, dude. What do you want? What would you do if you could and you didn't have to worry about the money? He goes, I want to do the work you do. I said, really? Okay, cool. Let me connect you with this guy who will help you start getting trained to get your peer certificate, your peer support certificate. And he made, I connected him that night, sent him the email. So now perhaps he has a glimpse of the light that he wasn't seeing because he was stuck in this. I have to do this. I have to do this because this is what I've always done. Yeah. Sometimes we just need somebody to shine the light a little bit so we can see that there are options for us.
Yeah, it can definitely be hard for us to see with the blinders on. So
yeah.
Well, Stephen, man, this has been a fun conversation. Honestly, I mean, we've been going at it now for almost an hour, which is quite a bit longer than most of my episodes go. So it just goes to show you that the conversation for me personally was it was fun, it was engaging, and hopefully the audience finds the same value that I did. So tell them where they can find out more about you and find out more about the work that you do.
Sure, absolutely, Larry. Thank you again, man. It really has been fun catching up. I mean, this is actually one of the best treats I've had all year, and it's nice to end this year with it because we talked 4.5 years ago. We didn't know where our journeys were going to go, but now you were the podcast master now, and like I stepped away from podcasting, but man, it's awesome to watch you continuing to light the way for people. It's awesome. But if people want to find me, they can find me. I guess the best place would be you can find me on social media, Facebook or whatever. But my last name is rather hard, so you could find me at ancienthealingpathways.com. Also, if you want my name, my shamanic name, the name that I've kind of taken for myself is Owl Greyfire. So Owl, because I've always had an owl like in my dreams and my when I go into meditation, it's always an owl. Gray, because that's kind of like my view of the world, kind of like the yin yang we're talking about. Like nothing's really black or white. It's all just different shades of gray. And then fire, because the only way we can really transmute or change energy or change anything is through the refinement in a fire. We have to burn away the impurities. So you can find me on Facebook at Al Greyfire too. That's another place. But I'm sure you'll have my name in the show notes or whatever. Yep. People find me if they want to. If they're supposed to, they'll find me. If not, whatever. It's cool. I'm just happy to spend some time with my buddy Larry.
Nah, man, it was great. I appreciate it so much, man. I really, really do. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Take care.
Will do. You do the same. Hey, everybody, this has been another awesome episode of the podcast. If you got some value out of today's episode, I got one favor to ask, and that is for you to subscribe to the show. That way I can bring you fresh new content every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. Central, because I'm in Texas, so we got to go by Texas time. But until then, if you have any questions or you want to reach out, please don't hesitate to contact me. And until then, take care.